Anita Rahman, the elegant wife of a wealthy Malaysian businessman, and Rafiq Nasir, her 19-year-old driver from the city's poor outskirts, were never meant to cross paths, but when their secret affair ignited behind the walls of luxury, it set off a chain of lies, betrayal, an obsession that ended with one of them lying dead in a pool of blood. Anita Rahman had always been seen as the symbol of grace and success in Kuala Lumpur's elite social circles. Her life appeared flawless, a beautiful mansion with marble floors, an art collection worth millions, and a husband who provided everything she could ever desire. Yet, behind those tall glass windows and extravagant parties was a silence that grew heavier with every passing day. Her husband, Imran Rahman, was always somewhere far away, signing deals in Singapore, meeting investors in Dubai, attending conferences in Europe. Weeks turned into months, and the mansion that once felt grand now felt more like a prison draped in gold. Anita's mornings began the same way every day. She sat in her sunlit garden sipping imported tea, flipping through magazines that displayed lives as empty as her own. The staff moved quietly around her, careful not to disturb their employer's stillness. Every sound seemed to echo: the click of her heels on the marble, the ticking of the clock, the creak of the large wooden doors. She had everything, yet she felt invisible. There were no children to fill the house with laughter, no husband to share the quiet nights, and no purpose beyond maintaining the illusion of perfection. When Imran decided to hire a new driver for her, Anita barely paid attention at first. The household went through drivers constantly. Most stayed a few weeks and moved on. But the day Rafiq Nasir arrived, something subtly shifted in the atmosphere of the Rahman home. He was only 19, tall, with sun-browned skin and sharp, eager eyes. His nervous smile carried both respect and curiosity as he stood in the grand driveway. Holding his cap, Anita noticed how young he looked, how his clothes didn't quite fit, how he seemed unsure in this world of marble and crystal chandeliers. She gave him instructions in a calm tone, not realizing how her presence alone left him speechless. In the following days, Rafiq became a familiar figure, opening car doors, driving through the bustling streets of Kuala Lumpur, waiting silently as she shopped or attended charity lunches. He never spoke unless spoken to, yet Anita could feel his attention, his quiet admiration. It was harmless at first, the kind of unspoken awareness that neither dared to acknowledge. But soon, she found herself noticing him too often, her thoughts wandering during dull afternoons. Every time Rafiq opened the car door, Anita felt a strange energy she hadn't felt in years. The reflection of his eyes in the rearview mirror lingered longer than necessary. When she smiled, he blushed. When she laughed, he glanced at her with something deeper than respect. It was dangerous, but it made her feel alive. She began dressing more carefully, choosing perfumes she hadn't worn in years, taking longer routes home just to stay in the car a little longer. The loneliness that once suffocated her began to fade, replaced by a thrilling sense of attention. She was no longer just a wife waiting for her husband's call. She was a woman rediscovering the feeling of being desired. The mansion didn't seem so silent anymore, and the golden cage she had lived in started to shimmer with forbidden excitement. She didn't know it yet, but this spark, born from boredom and loneliness, would soon ignite a fire that would destroy everything she had built. Anita's secret life began quietly, almost without her realizing it. What started as casual glances turned into deliberate moments stolen from routine. Every morning, she found herself waiting for Rafiq's car to pull up the driveway, her heartbeat quickening at the sound of the engine. His presence made her restless, alive, and guilty all at once. It had been years since she had felt noticed, truly seen, and now every small gesture from him fed the emptiness she had hidden behind her perfect smile. Soon, she began inventing reasons to keep him near. A drive to a boutique across town that didn't need visiting, a spontaneous trip to the outskirts for fresh air, errands that could easily be done by someone else. Rafiq, young and naive, followed without question. He admired her elegance, the way she carried herself like someone untouched by time. He didn't understand the danger in her gaze or the consequences of her affection. He only knew she made him feel important, something no one had ever done before. The first time Anita invited him inside her private villa was the point of no return. It was supposed to be just a quick errand, dropping off shopping bags after a long afternoon, but the air inside was thick with something unsaid. She offered him tea, and for the first time, their eyes met without the barrier of duty or distance. That brief silence changed everything. The lines blurred, and from that day, their relationship slipped into forbidden territory. Days turned into weeks, and soon the affair became their secret world. In the mornings, she was the graceful wife hosting tea parties and attending charity events. By afternoon, she was a different woman, reckless, passionate, and consumed by desire. She began ignoring her friends' calls, missing social gatherings, and locking herself away for hours, claiming migraines or fatigue. Even the housemaids started whispering, noticing how often Rafiq's car was parked in places it shouldn't be. Rafiq, once content just being near her, began to dream bigger. He imagined a future with Anita, far from the city, where no one cared about class or money. But Anita knew better. She knew the affair could never last. That one whisper in the wrong ear could destroy her husband's reputation and her life. Still, she couldn't stop. The thrill was intoxicating. It made her forget her age, her loneliness, and the hollow luxury she had lived in for years. Farazane, her closest friend, began noticing the change. Anita had become secretive, distracted, and defensive. At parties, she avoided questions about her husband's absence and glanced nervously at her phone. One evening, Farah saw Rafiq's car outside a secluded cafe, and moments later, Anita emerged from the shadows, adjusting her sunglasses. The image burned into Farah's mind, though she said nothing. The illusion of secrecy began to crumble as gossip spread among servants and neighbors. What Anita thought was hidden was becoming visible in subtle, dangerous ways. But instead of pulling back, she held on tighter, drawn deeper into the lie she had created. Her days revolved around moments with Rafiq, and each meeting felt like walking closer to a cliff's edge. She believed she could control it, the lies, the danger, the passion. What she didn't realize was that every secret has a price, and hers was about to come due in the most devastating way. The illusion of control began to collapse the moment Imran Rahman returned home, without warning. It was a humid evening in Kuala Lumpur when his car rolled into the driveway. Unannounced and unexpected, the mansion, accustomed to his long absences, felt startled by his sudden presence. For Anita, the shock was immediate and terrifying. Rafiq had just left the house that afternoon after spending hours with her, and traces of his visit still lingered like silent evidence. A coffee cup on the counter, a faint scent of cologne in the hallway, and a jacket carelessly left behind in the study. Anita's pulse quickened as she rushed to erase the traces. She gathered the jacket, scrubbed the cup, and sprayed perfume through the air, trying to erase the scent of guilt. But deep down, she knew she couldn't wash away what she had done. When Imran walked through the door, smiling wearily after a long flight, she felt a wave of panic masked by forced calm. His arms reached for her in affection, and she stiffened, her mind still racing with fear. In the following days, Imran's suspicion grew quietly. His wife's nervous laughter, her sudden phone checks, her distant behavior, everything seemed off. She spoke less, avoided his gaze, and often disappeared for unexplained errands. For a man as calculating as Imran, it didn't take long for doubt to take root. When he noticed Rafiq's car parked unusually close to the property one afternoon, his instincts hardened into certainty. He didn't confront Anita immediately. Instead, he made a call to a private investigator, a discreet professional who had served him during business disputes before. The task was simple: follow Rafiq Nasir, learn his movements, and report everything. Within a week, the truth came crashing down. The investigator returned with photographs, Anita and Rafiq together in cafes, in secluded parking lots, and at the villa outside the city. There was no denying it. His wife had betrayed him with a boy barely older than their household staff. Imran's world, built on pride and control, shattered in silence. Outwardly, he remained composed, but something dark began brewing inside him. He stopped speaking to Anita except for brief formalities. The atmosphere in the mansion turned cold. The servants whispered that the master and mistress no longer dined together. and that Rafiq had stopped coming by. Only Anita knew why. She could feel the weight of Imran's eyes following her, silent and heavy with rage. Farah, sensing disaster, tried to warn her friend to end the affair completely, but it was too late. The tension in the house grew unbearable. Anita could barely sleep. Every creak in the hallway made her heart race. She suspected Imran knew, though he said nothing. Rafiq, on the other hand, began calling her constantly, demanding answers and promising to protect her. The situation, that once felt like a thrilling escape, had now become a trap. Every lie Anita told seemed to unravel another thread of her perfect life. Her phone buzzed with messages she was terrified to read, and every time she heard Imran's footsteps, she feared he might finally confront her. The secret that had once made her feel alive had now turned into the shadow that haunted every waking moment. She didn't know that the confrontation she feared most was coming, and when it did, it would end in irreversible tragedy. The night everything fell apart began with a message that Anita could not ignore. It was from Rafiq, desperate, emotional, and full of fear. He wrote that Imran had confronted him outside his small apartment earlier that day, threatening him to leave the city. He claimed Imran had men watching him, that his life was in danger. Anita's hands trembled as she read the words. Guilt and panic twisted inside her. She had caused this. Rafiq, the boy who had once looked at her with love, was now caught in the violent storm of her secrets. Without thinking, she messaged him back and told him to meet her that evening at the old villa on the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, the place where their affair had first begun in private. The villa stood hidden behind tall palm trees, a relic of her family's wealth. It was quiet there, far from the city lights, with nothing but crickets and the hum of night air. Anita arrived first, her car headlights cutting through the dark. She sat behind the wheel for a long time, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes looked hollow. She wasn't sure if she was there to comfort Rafiq or to end everything once and for all. When Rafiq arrived, his clothes were disheveled, his face pale from anxiety. The air between them was thick with tension. He moved closer, speaking fast, his emotions unstable. He begged her not to abandon him, to choose him over her husband. But Anita was torn between fear and exhaustion. The fantasy that had once made her feel alive had turned poisonous. Her mind raced with the consequences, the scandal, the humiliation, the destruction of her husband's empire. She knew there was no escape without sacrifice. Before either of them could calm down, the sound of an approaching engine broke through the night. A black SUV pulled up to the edge of the property, its headlights flashing across the villa's cracked walls. Anita froze when she saw who stepped out, Imran Rahman. His face was cold, unreadable, his steps deliberate. Rafiq backed away, his voice raised in panic, but there was no chance to reason. Imran had followed her, confirming every suspicion he'd held. What happened next unfolded in seconds, but would haunt the night forever. There was shouting, movement, the sound of a struggle near the car. Anita screamed as she tried to separate them, her hands trembling as the situation spiraled out of control. Then, a single gunshot tore through the darkness. The echo bounced off the villa walls and disappeared into the jungle. When silence returned, Rafiq lay on the ground, blood pooling beneath him. The gun fell from Anita's shaking hands. Imran stood a few feet away, staring at her, then turned and walked toward his SUV without a word. Within moments, he was gone, swallowed by the night. Anita dropped to her knees, her mind blank. The reality of what had just happened didn't sink in until flashing red and blue lights painted the walls of the villa. Neighbors had called the police after hearing the gunshot. When officers arrived, they found Anita beside Rafiq's body, her expensive clothes soaked in blood and her face frozen in shock. Imran Rahman was nowhere to be found. The fairy tale of wealth and desire had turned into a scene of horror, and the secret she had guarded so carefully was now exposed under the glare of police lights. Detective Malik Idrus arrived at the villa just before dawn, his experience telling him that the story before him was more complicated than it appeared. The crime scene was almost perfect. A single gunshot wound, a discarded weapon, and a wealthy woman in shock beside the body. To anyone else, it looked like a crime of passion, a jealous husband catching his wife with her lover. But Malik had seen enough to know that neat stories often hid ugly truths. Anita Rahman sat in the back of the police car, her face pale under the harsh morning light. Her once elegant clothes were torn, her hair tangled, and her hands wouldn't stop trembling. She didn't cry, not even when she was told that Rafiq was dead. Her silence was heavy, unreadable. When questioned, she said little, only that things had gone wrong, that she didn't mean for any of it to happen. But as officers searched the scene, new details began to shift the direction of the case. The fingerprints on the gun didn't belong to Imran Rahman. They belonged to Anita. That discovery changed everything. The police immediately began looking for Imran, but he had vanished completely. His phone was off, his credit cards unused, his business associates claiming ignorance of his whereabouts. The theory of a jealous husband committing murder collapsed within days. Detective Malik ordered a full search of the Rahman home and Anita's car, hoping to uncover something that would make sense of the chaos. In her phone, they found messages that painted a disturbing picture. Rafiq had grown possessive and volatile. He sent Anita threats when she ignored him, accusing her of using him, and warning that he would expose their affair to the media if she tried to end it. There were screenshots, desperate calls, and voice messages filled with anger. It was clear the relationship had spiraled out of control long before that final night. When Malik confronted her with the evidence, Anita broke down. Her voice was shaky, but cold, her confession fragmented. She said she had only wanted to meet Rafiq to end things peacefully. She claimed that he had shouted, grabbed her, and refused to let her leave. In the panic, she reached for the gun her husband kept in the car for protection. The shot, she insisted, was an accident. She said she never meant to kill him, but doubts remained. Forensics revealed no signs of a struggle. The gunshot was fired from a distance that suggested hesitation, a deliberate aim, not a chaotic fight. Malik knew she wasn't telling the full truth, yet without Imran to testify or direct evidence to prove premeditation. The case relied heavily on circumstantial proof and Anita's own inconsistent statements. The court found her guilty of manslaughter, sentencing her to 25 years in prison. Farah Zain, her once loyal friend, testified about Anita's secret behavior and her growing fear of exposure. The story became a national scandal, a tale of lust, privilege, and ruin that captivated headlines for weeks. Imran Rahman was never found. Some said he fled to Dubai. Others believed he had bribed his way out of Malaysia altogether. Years later, even behind bars, Anita's mystery remained unsolved in people's minds. Was she a victim who acted in fear, or a manipulative woman who eliminated the one person who threatened her comfort in her quiet prison cell? She never answered that question. She simply stared through the bars each night, haunted by the echo of that single gunshot that destroyed 3 lives: the boy who loved her, the husband who left her, and the woman she once believed she was.